jaws are thicker because they use their jaws more, and any bodybuilder will tell you the more you use your muscles, the bigger the bones grow. It's a much slower process, but it does happen, okay? Aborigines have a nomadic way of life. They don't want to carry a toolbox with them, so they make their tools on the spot, and they're always using their jaws like a vice. But what happened to the Aborigines in Tasmania and Australia, you will not be able to understand what happened and why it happened until you see how evolution tied in. These two folks used to go collect skulls for museums. This article says, the New South Wales missionary was the horrified witness to the slaughter by mounted police of a group of dozens of Aboriginal men, women, and children. 45 heads were then boiled down and the best 10 skulls packed off for overseas. The Smithsonian today has 33,000 sets of human remains in their basement as evidence for evolution. And I think part of this is from the theory that it's destructive. There was 1904, St. Louis held the World's Fair. 2,000 primitive people were put on display to demonstrate the superiority that white Americans had evolved farther. Anthropologist McGee designed the display. Peter Jennings told about it here in his book, Century for Young People, by ABC Peter Jennings. Oda Benga was taken away from his wife and 2 kids and put in a cage with chimpanzees to demonstrate how he was an African pygmy. The guy went insane and killed himself. That was part of a demonstration for evolution. See the website rae.org if you want more on that. Theodore Roosevelt believed in evolution. He thought the Indians were an inferior species. Roosevelt said, "I wish the wrong people could be prevented entirely from breeding." He thought the many immigrants from Europe, Scotland, Ireland, and the Orient were a threat to American society. I don't think you'll understand what happened to the Indians until you understand the theory of evolution, how it was prevalent during the 1800s. The Trail of Tears, which took place before Darwin's book came out, but evolution was popular before Darwin's book came out. Those people came right across this part of Arkansas. 1/3 of the Cherokees died on the way. Sam Houston was enraged by what happened to them. He quit Congress over it. You won't understand the Trail of Tears incident until you understand they thought they were an inferior species. Yet the Bible says we all are of one race. Evolution is also certainly the foundation for communism. Communism is based on evolution theory 100%. The founder of the ACLU, the American Communist Lawyers Union, said communism is the goal. Karl Marx, the founder of communism, wrote a beautiful paper of how much he loved the Lord when he was 17, but he went off to college and a professor destroyed his faith in first year in college. Karl Marx was one of many whose faith has been destroyed in 1 year of college from Christian homes. 75% of the kids from Christian homes who go to secular schools will lose their faith after 1 year in college. Marx later said, "My objective in life is to dethrone God and destroy capitalism." Professor Wilson at Harvard University said, as were many persons from Alabama, I was a born-again Christian. When I was 15, I entered the Southern Baptist Church with great fervor and interest in the fundamentalist religion. I left at 17 when I got to the University of Alabama and heard about evolution theory. We could go all day on this one, this topic. Let's see. Evolution is not only the foundation for racism and communism. Adolf Hitler and Mussolini were strong believers in evolution. This is what motivated them to do what they did. Hitler thought the Germans were the superior race. Sir Arthur Keith wrote the foreword to Darwin's book when it was republished in 1959, the 100-year anniversary edition. He said, the German Führer has consistently sought to make the practice of Germany conform to the theory of evolution. A direct line runs from Darwin through the father of eugenics movement, Darwin's cousin, Francis Galton, to the extermination camps of Nazi Europe. Here's Hitler's book, Mein Kampf. It's full of his racist philosophy, where he talked about higher and lower races. What motivated Adolf Hitler to do what he did was this theory that there is a higher and a lower race. Hitler thought the blonde-haired, blue-eyed Norwegians were close to pure Aryan. They were the superior race. The Germans were second. They were mostly Aryan. Mediterraneans are slightly Aryan. Slavic, half Aryan, half ape. Oriental, slight ape. Black African, mostly ape. And Jewish, close to pure ape. You will not understand what happened with Hitler in World War II and 13 million people being executed, not just the ones at the camp, but in the whole war. 13 million people lost their life because of this evolution theory. When the Olympics were held in Berlin, Germany, 1936, Jesse Owens won the most gold medals, and Hitler refused to shake his hand. Hitler walked out of the stadium because he thought he was an inferior animal. We could talk a long time about that, but I don't think it's possible to understand what happened to history without tying in this evolution theory. It is not just a dumb idea, it's a dangerous religion, and we cover that quite a bit in our videotape number 5. A couple more things you mentioned in my 1 minute I have left here. Get all my notes here. You mentioned there's a Flat Earth Society. Why on earth would you bring up such a dumb idea as that? I'm not a member of a Flat Earth Society. The Bible says very clearly the earth is round. What you're doing here is it's another fallacy in logical argument. I have to get my list of all the 80 different possible fallacies you can do in arguing, but that was another one of them. Guilt by association is what it boils down to. The Bible says very clearly in Isaiah chapter 40, verse 22, that the Lord sits on the circle of the earth. Okay, so for you to say the earth is flat, it's ridiculous, okay? The Hebrew word used there is sphere. As far as germ theory, I think there's overwhelming evidence that germs are involved in disease, but it is called the germ theory, because surprisingly, there's still quite a bit of argument about it, okay? A germ can be infested in a room, and some people will get it, some people won't. For instance, if you are taking oregano oil or garlic tablets, anthrax doesn't seem to affect you. So does the anthrax cause the disease, or does the lack of resistance cause the disease? Does oxygen cause rust, or does exposed metal cause rust? I mean, all you have to do is paint the metal and it won't rust. So I would agree there's a germ theory and a cell theory and all this stuff, but for you to try to associate evolution with it is a logical fallacy. There is no evidence for evolution. I would like you to share with the audience what is the best known evidence for any animal changing to a different kind of animal. What's the best evidence? Just give me the best one, okay? Save us a lot of time. I contend there is none, and I would quickly point out again that no fossil evidence could possibly count because you can't prove it had any kids. So that wouldn't work as evidence for evolution. Please tell us your best evidence for evolution. Thank you.
What did you say a kind was?
A kind?
Yeah.
The Bible says those that originally were able to bring forth. Obviously, the bringing forth determines whether it's a kind or not. Now, there may be variations now, 6,000 years later, where they can no longer bring forth because of, Great Dane and Chihuahua have a few mechanical problems, but they could still actually bring forth, technically. So I'm not sure exactly where the original created kind was, where the boundaries are, and if I were asking the taxpayers to pay for my religion to be taught, the burden of proof would be on me to demonstrate where this is. I'm not asking the taxpayers to do that. You're asking the taxpayers to pay for your religion to be taught, so the burden of proof is on you today, not me.
There was a, thank you. Go ahead. Well, I was down at Heritage Baptist, this is Heritage Baptist, sorry, at Central Baptist College in our fair city of Conway, and I was looking through the Creation Research Society quarterly and came upon a 1997 article by Garcia Pozuela Ramos. I might have gotten the name a little bit wrong, but it's something close to that, and it's 1997, in which he tried to apply definitions of exactly what kinds were and were not, specifically to the primates, reviewing various lines of evidence for what created kinds are and how we can define them for monkeys and apes. And he mentioned something, and this is there in the library, that he did not do this experiment, and I honestly don't know who did or whose idea it was, but someone tried fertilizing the egg cell of a gibbon, that's a so-called lesser ape, with human sperm. And were actually able to get the sperm to penetrate and initiate the beginning stages of fertilization. I don't know if the experiment got any farther than that. Frequently, the criterion that is used for defining a kind is interbreeding. And I remember a very entertaining presentation that Dr. Hovind gave last year, in which he pointed out that you can interbreed a horse with a donkey, you get a mule. You interbreed a zebra with a donkey, and you get a zonkey, and a zebra with a horse, and you get a zorse, and so on. But this, the idea that you can at least start the fertilization process between human and gibbon sort of